Hey, what's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is the Earthmaster back here on this Friday night party night out here. Started the weekend, March 10th, 2023. It's about 9:40 p.m. here along the West Coast in the state of California, where we're kind of drying out a little bit today. Still got more rain in the forecast. The latest earthquake shows a 2.9 into the area of the Puerto Rico region. Notice some deeper movement here across the area of the Middle America Trench. Also getting a swarm of activity here in the South America region along the Peru-Chile Trench, and some further activity across New Zealand. So let's go ahead and get right into it here, taking a look at the latest map here from the USGS map. We're going to start up here into the Alaska region. We're still kind of keeping an eye on the volcanoes up here into the area of the Aleutian Trench. Quite a bit of earthquake activity ramping up here. We did see some further upstream earthquake activity of 4.6 along the Aleutian Trench here into the subduction zone, about 35 kilometers deep, and also a little bit of activity here to the west near the Rat Islands area, 25 kilometers deep. But the main swarm here around two specific volcanoes, Tanaga Volcano, and got the other one here up top called the Takawanga Volcano. Now both of these are raised up to the alert level of watch and orange due to the seismic activity that's been kicking up here across this island. It's been pretty active in terms of earthquake activity. There has not been any noticeable eruption far as lava or ash clouds or any such stuff like that, but we're still watching it, keeping a very close eye on it, because these earthquakes are very they're inconsistent with their depths there. They're all over the place in terms of the level below the ground. Some are very shallow, some are very deep. That's an obvious sign of magma on the rise. Obviously, we've seen this before with the Mauna Loa activity earlier during that eruption there on the Big Island. So over the last 24 hours, 153 earthquakes so far. And if we give that a total tally here over the last week, we're looking at a little bit more impressive number, 761 earthquakes. That's a pretty significant amount around volcanoes, right? One would expect that this is getting ready to erupt, and it's definitely looking likely that this thing will pop into the eruptive stage soon enough. The latest updated information here from the hazard notification system, the volcanoes.usgs.gov website, it's put out today. Earthquake activity started beneath the Tanaga volcano on March 4th. The earthquakes at that time had magnitudes of up to about an M2, and were located at depths of between roughly 6 to 11 miles below sea level. But over the past week, the earthquakes have shallowed out, and most events are now shallower than about 4 miles. So that's indicating magma moving up towards the surface. Looks like earthquake rates and magnitudes have increased with the magnitude, or at least with the largest events, up to M4 in that department. The sustained activity indicates an increased potential for eruption at the volcano. And that's when the AVO raised the alert level to the orange and watch level on the afternoon of March 9th. That was yesterday. So seismic activity also increased nearby at the Takawanga volcano, which is about only 5 miles to the east. If an eruption were to occur, it's uncertain. This is the wording that they're putting out here. It's uncertain at the stage if it would come from the Tanaga volcano or the Takawanga volcano. No eruptive signals or other signs of unrest have been detected in other data streams or in satellite data. So these guys are continuing to monitor the activity, and of course, as always, we'll continue to monitor the activity as well with this developing movement here. It's all kind of kicked up here over the last few days with a noticeable increase in earthquake activity across the northern end of the Pacific Plate, kind of putting the squeeze out here on some of the magma chambers at that specific volcano. Those volcanoes, I should say, plural. All right, a little bit of activity here near the Izu Trench. So earlier this morning during the update, I showed you guys this pretty deep earthquake, right? 4.6, 464 kilometers deep. I said, watch this area. Sure enough, bada boom, bada bang. We get the 5.2 coming up, very shallow, 10 kilometers deep, within that region of the deeper earthquake activity. So a lot of times in these trenches, the deeper movement does add further strain up here. And it almost seems within about 12 hours or so is when we notice earthquake activity upstream following some deeper movement. And it tends to always happen that way in this area of the Mariana Trench, in the Izu Trench area. So that was, I can't say that was forecasted, but that was pretty much just right on cue. Deeper activity adding to the strain, shallow earthquake activity sometime later following that deeper movement. Up north here along the Kuril-Kamchatka and the Japan region, to these earthquakes from earlier today. Somewhat moderate depths there, not anything major, but still watching the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This area is primed, I think, for our next show, so to speak, in terms of a megaquake. The Kuril-Kamchatka Trench has some major potential to see some mega earthquakes out here, along with subsequent tsunamis, and it's been a while since we've had it. It's been a little while. Of course, 2000, goodness, was that 2014? When we had that, the Japan earthquake? 2011. I can't remember. I'm still not 100% certain in my head because I'm a little bit under the weather here. Let me check out the when that happened. I think it was Japan, 2011. So that's when that struck. I don't know where the year 2014 came in, but so yeah, 2011 we did see that mega quake, that 9-pointer out here. But this area, specifically this area right here, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, has not caught up in terms of the release of pressure that it should have been by now. There's a lot of strain, a lot of built-up pressure here with these two arrows. Notice that? That's a subduction zone. Japan sits down here. But this Kuril-Kamchatka Trench here is backed up by the Pacific Plate, two major plates up here to the north, putting a major squeeze here with high accumulation slip rate, unlike any other areas of the world. So this area should have seen something larger by now, and it hasn't. So that leads me to believe here that we're going to see the next megaquake hit this area. It's just a matter of time, folks. All right, let's see what else we have. Down south into the Indonesia area, quite a few 4s, and it looks like some 5s out there as well. Let me see what we got here across the EMSC model. Very absent, though, of earthquake activity here across the Philippines today. Nothing showing up at all. That's a little on the odd side. We do have some movement, though. Kind of crunching over here to the west along the Java Trench, the northern end of the Java Trench. 5.3 earthquake coming in earlier this evening, about 60 kilometers deep. This area also is primed here, about northern Sumatra northward into the Myanmar area. Has not seen any sufficient movement, and that is a major area again of seeing. Well, it's kind of hard to see on this map. Kind of missing out on a good portion of it over here. But up against this area, northern end of the Java Trench, is another subduction zone. I don't think it's quite as high as accumulated slip rate here as this region, as the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, but it's definitely getting some build up there into the Java Trench area northward into the Andaman Sea regions. But a little bit of activity kicking up here this evening around that area. Further to the west, looks fairly calm, right? Only a 4.1 yesterday, last night, into the Turkey area. But checking out the EMSC model here shows some 2s and some 3s scattered out and about. No major or even moderate seismic activity out here today. Mostly small microquakes across the region, and that obviously shows here across the EMSC model. The Atlantic Ocean has been awfully quiet. We've only seen a little bit of activity up here across the Iceland area over the last couple days or so. Just some small microquakes. Got a 3.4 coming in there. Where is that? Let me take a glance here. Is this a newer earthquake? Let me see here, maybe. Northern Italy. Looks like about 0 kilometers deep. But, I mean, it's... Aside from that, nothing really major going on across the area. So we'll just continue to watch this region for some further activity, possibly. Now, down south here into the South America region, getting a noticeable swarm of activity here at the southern end, the very southern end of the Peru-Chile Trench. Now, that's another subduction zone area. And, of course, subduction zones accumulate quite a bit of strain, depending on where they're at out here. But the amount of strain determines their magnitude there. And Chile, of course, holds the record for the largest earthquake, at least in human history, or at least in our record, I should say. Who knows if there's been bigger earthquakes or not. But that big old 9-pointer back in the early 60s, right? The Chilean earthquake. Notice the subduction zone here, the Nazca plate heading to the east with the arrows. Huge accumulation slip right there up against the Peru-Chile Trench. But the South America plate here generally scooting off to the north. So we do have the subduction level here, but not quite as direct as this area here around the Coro-Kamchatka Trench. I still think that's one of the most active regions for slip rate. Either way, a little bit of activity kicking up down here today. 4.5 and a 4.9 into the area of the Chile region. Looks like there may be, that may be a duplicate quake there from the EMSC and USGS combined, but a little bit of activity definitely noticeable across the area. Some deeper movement up north into the northern area of Chile. One deep earthquake coming in here. It looks like it's fairly recent, a 4.4 coming in just within the hour. 146 kilometers deep into, where's that, Colombia? Let me double check and see. Yep, northern Colombia. Pretty deep earthquake kicking up out there as we speak. Let's see. USGS reporting that as a 4.4. They did see a little bit of activity over the last 24 hours here within this region. Got some deeper movement quakes here. A 5.4, 159 kilometers deep. That was followed up a little bit later by a shallower earthquake. Now this is the Colombian Trench. Earthquake strain does build up here upstream. So notice the deeper movement quakes here downstream, upstream activity kicking back. And now we're kicking back here to the deeper movement area. So might be pinpointing a region to watch here for some larger scale activity with that type of setup. Kind of bouncing back and forth there. One earthquake here within the last hour, 2.9. What is that, Boca de Yuma? Hopefully I didn't slaughter that. Near the Dominican Republic, 143 kilometers deep. Goodness, that is a super deep earthquake for this area. It has been reviewed. Let me see what we got here. Definitely have seen some deeper historical earthquake activity out here, so not uncommon. But goodness, I don't recall the last time I seen that such of a deep earthquake out here. So something's starting to pop here. If you really think about it, around the Caribbean plate, South American plate here, things are kind of getting the squeeze on here, so to speak, in this area. Excuse me. So continue to watch that region for some movement. Definitely rather interesting activity, let me tell you. Right, up into the States, what do we got here outside of the Colorado area? I'm hoping I can make it through this update here tonight. Sorry, folks. Still under the weather. We did see another 4.3 coming in this earlier afternoon time period. That comes following a 4.3 from last night. Look at that. All that earthquake activity here, folks. And I think I covered it, but we're going to do it just real quick again. These are quite a bit of some type of wastewater disposal facilities out there. And we can take, I think what I'll do here is take one of these earthquakes and put that into Google Earth and see exactly what's going on here. I know it's let's see what we got. Google Earth, here we go. I'll pop this up and we'll just see what's going on here for that location. Stand by here for just a second. It looks like my overlays are sucking up a little bit of the memory. I do have USGS overlays on here on the Earthquake 3D Globe that shows all the fault systems on Google Earth, and that does suck up a bunch of GPU. Which is kind of weird. Okay, anyway, let's go back over here to the paste and search. See what's going on here across the area of southern Colorado, and just want to be sure that this ain't a campsite facility out here. There's where that earthquake struck specifically, where that pin is. There's some cricks if you're dependent on the correct pronunciation, but these look like, notice this pool right here. Notice you guys see that? The level of the depth here? Notice that shadow indicating a elevation difference within that rectangle. That is obviously a wastewater disposal well that's dry now. So these are, I'm thinking these are all wastewater disposal wells. There's one right there as well. Notice the rectangle pond right here a little bit. It's drained or injected. Goodness. Let's see what we got here. Another one. All of these harbor that same type of setup, that rectangle type wastewater pond. These are definitely not camping sites. I was kind of hesitant about mentioning that earlier. But yeah, these are wastewater disposal wells, folks. And there is a bunch of them out here. Look at them all over the place. All these little specks are indeed those same operations. And that's exactly where these earthquakes are striking out here today. So let me get rid of that. But man, goodness. That's a lot of earthquake activity kicking up out here. So that tells me, folks, it definitely tells me that there's quite a bit of pressure out here building up against the North American plate. I said to watch the West Coast. So far, we haven't seen any major adjustment out here along the West Coast. But with this type of activity, that's obvious that we're getting some pressure transfer out here along the North American plate. I haven't seen any other areas hit here to the east, although they have been within the past 30 days. If we look at the last 30 days of activity, quite a few of these wastewater disposal wells have been hit across Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, big time, and more specifically out here around Pecos, Texas. Don't believe me? Check out this satellite view. All these little checkered boxes out here. Notice that. It's huge business out here, folks. Those are not swimming pools, but wastewater disposal wells, right? Got to get rid of the waste. So there's a process involved. I'm not going to go through that tonight, but look it up if you have any doubts or want to know more about it. Wastewater disposal wells amongst all these oil fields and pumping operations. It's a big deal. That's where we're seeing further earthquake activity. And there's a lot. Let me tell you. It's going to continue for quite a while, folks. And some of these earthquakes could get bigger. 1.5 Culver City area within the last hour. 11 kilometers deep off of the... it kind of looks like it's a Newport or maybe the Overland Avenue fault. Los Angeles is scattered with many faults underneath all that concrete and pavement. Some we know about, some we don't. There's definitely some major faults out there that can do more damage to the city of Los Angeles than, say, for example, the southern branch of the San Andreas Fault going. Say if an 8.1 were to pop over here, obviously it'd do some damaging activities across Southern California, but specifically, some of these other faults are more worrisome, where they can produce a 7.0 right underneath the city. So, dangerous area down there in Southern California, let me tell you, when it comes to earthquake activity. But for now, some scattered microquake activity across the region. No major swarms, but again, take note of the inland activity occurring here across the North American plate. These are intraplate earthquakes away from the plate boundary, telling me that, well, there's quite a bit of strain out there. That pressure has to go somewhere, right? These things can only wound up so tight. Once they're wound up and they're, pretty much at their breaking point, that activity tends to migrate elsewhere until they pop. One earthquake out here along the northern end of the San Andreas Fault, 2.4 near the Point Arena area. Some beautiful country out here, but also very dangerous. Major plate boundary, 1.3 kilometers for that earthquake. This movement here, very typical across the Clear Lake volcanic field. A lot of people asking about it, but I do cover it a lot. I don't want to cover it too much because it gets repetitive in terms of the process that's involved there. A 3.4 well off the coast in Northern California. Looks like 16 kilometers deep here into the Gorda Plate. Let me see what we got here real quick for the tremor. Haven't even checked that out tonight. So, zip zero, nada. No tremors. 0 is the big number tonight here along the Cascadia. All right, big island of Hawaii. What do we got going on out here? Doesn't look like too much. Got about 16 earthquakes or so. Most of that movement around Pahala and the Kilauea volcano, around the crater area. Nothing changing, though. Or is the eruptive status out there for now? Let's go down to New Zealand. We're talking about areas down here, seeing a little bit of uptick. We did see a 4.0 coming in just off the coast of North Island. It looks like it got downgraded to a 3.9 by the EMSC model. Let me go to the GeoNet servers here. There's that 4.0. It was reported by the GeoNet servers as a 4.0. Stand by here for a second. Yeah, they're still showing a 4.0, 57 kilometers deep, North Island, New Zealand. So, but a downgrade from the EMSC model. USGS not picking up on it yet. Prior to that, all magnitudes here across the New Zealand area. Another 2.6, it looks like. Not for sure how to pronounce that one, but North Island, New Zealand area, excuse me. Some other 2s and 3s across the area. Not seeing any specific major swarm across the region. Let's see what we got here for the earthquakes drums. That will give us a little better indicator of what's going on. There is the that's going to be that 4-pointer kicking up here. And most of the stations there across North Island, New Zealand, the extreme North Island, New Zealand, will pick up that earthquake, such as this one here. Notice that being picked up rather nicely with that 4.0 or 3.9, depending on which one you want to pick. As far as other earthquake activity goes, it looks like some very typical movement out here across a major plate boundary. I'm not really seeing anything spectacular. Volcano drums across the area of New Zealand. They will show the seismic activity as well. Little earthquake there at Taupo supervolcano. That's very specifically localized to that volcano area. But that's about it. No major swarms across the region. All right, let's see what else. Is that about it? I think that's it for earthquake activity. I'm going to go ahead and check out the space weather activity here across the solarham.net site. By the way, Kevin, I spoke with Kevin earlier. He is the owner of this site here, and I utilize this site quite a bit. I've used it for many years, actually. I like the layout. It's well designed. It's user friendly. There's not a lot of complex graphs that the the SDO and the Space Weather Prediction Center folks throw up here that's hard to understand. So Kevin does a very good job of putting out this data, and he's asking for a little bit of support out here to help him run the page. And I made my donation. I'm just kind of asking that folks may consider this as well. If you guys utilize his website, such as I do, then definitely help him out if you can. And I've supported him in the past. I supported him today, and I will in the future because I love this layout. There's obviously other web pages such as Space Weather Live, spaceweather.com. And, of course, the information that he gets all runs from the SDO and the Space Weather Prediction Center. So, for example, the graph here. This is the GOES X-ray flux chart, the 3-day, 6-hour, 7-day, all run from the Space Weather Prediction Center. But the layout here is very nice. It's easy to read, and that's why I always tend to show the space or the Solar Ham site here on my updates. I like the layout. It's very simple. I don't have to go through a whole lot of categories, and let's see if we can't help them reach that goal of getting some help out here. All right, looking at some space weather activity as far as the magnetic structure goes from the SDO. Notice that imagery up here. Well, goodbye to a lot of these sunspots. They're just kind of floating away, degrading, and turning to dust. Well, not really turning to dust, but turning back to plasma, I guess. Not a whole lot of activity out here as far as complex structure goes. Maybe a little bit of development here within this sunspot, but as ginormous as this region is here, it does not look complex whatsoever. So you got to have the magnetic structure within the sunspots to create an unstable sunspot region that could pop off a flare. So conditions are lowered. Still shows 95% chance. Now he gets this stuff from the SDO and the space weather folks, so not his estimate. 95% chance for a C flare, M flare at 25, and X flare at 5%. These are elevated, I think, beyond what they should be. But again, he gets this data from the professional folks, and I'm not agreeing with it because I don't see it out there on the magnetic structure. No major coronal holes facing us. Looks like only 25 to 30% chance of seeing the auroras up there at the higher latitudes. Looking right now at the 30-minute forecast here, the auroras. Slightly, very slightly unsettled conditions there across Canada and Alaska, but it doesn't look likely. Looks very minimal across those areas. So we'll continue to watch for some future development in the sunspot region. There's a newly unnamed sunspot here that we're kind of keeping an eye on. It doesn't look too complex, at least from this view. But we'll continue to watch it and see how it evolves here across the next couple days. All right, weather activity here across this beautiful planet that we live in here in Green, California. Goodness, my backfield here is just turning like a jungle from all the rain and the warm sunshine that we've seen today. So we're looking at that system scooting off here to the east, high pressure building in from the south here, but we do have some further unsettled conditions across Northern California over the next couple days with off and on rain and snow showers. Our next big maker here, notice that deep trough here of low pressure scooting in some of that atmospheric warmer weather into the west coast, and that includes mid-central Southern California area for some significant rain as well, roughly around Tuesday. And you can see snowfall at the higher elevations. Look at that down in Southern California. Some extensive rainfall rates picking up there across the region. After that, a little glance of a weather maker here. It's kind of scooting off to our north mostly, but we do get a little tail end of it. And then somewhat of another good storm system around the 19th. After that, got chances. Looks like multiple chances here. That low pressure system kind of just spinning off the Oregon coast, scooting in wave after wave of moisture for Northern California. So this is going to be a rather interesting spring and summertime because I am one that is very fond of nature, for one. I like to see greenery. Absolutely love greenery. I'm not one to my neighbor. I do appreciate him, but he likes to kill his field. He'll take some weed killer and just spray it down to where it's nothing but dirt. And he's got a lush green field right now. And instead of mowing it, every week or so, he just puts weed killer on it, and it's just dead, and it looks nasty. I don't like to do that. I like to keep everything green and alive. I'm a big fan of that. It brings about the bees, the butterflies, everything else, nature in general. So I'm looking forward to see how lush and green my area around the property will be this spring and summer with all this deep rainfall. We got a lot of rainfall that's soaked all the way down well below the surface and top layer now. So it'll be rather interesting. Let me tell you, I can't wait. Need to get out there and do some gardening. I think it'll be a good year for gardening as well with all the moisture. All right, let's see what else is there, folks. I think that's about it. Again, we're coming up in 5 days here. The member drawing. Missy Mimi is gifted 10 members, I should say, recently. So that was pretty nice of her. Very generous. I do appreciate her on the channel. She's very helpful and very beautiful. I do like to give a shout out to her once in a while. So we'll be doing the drawing here in about 5 days or so for our members, and we'll give away some prizes to the folks there that are members. And we are getting awfully close here to 100,000 subscribers. So we've gained, goodness, I think almost 3,000 subscribers within the past 30 days or so. So this is definitely ramping up towards that 100K giveaway, and we'll definitely look forward to that here soon. Hopefully, by this summertime, we'll see how it plays out. Until then, have a good night. Stay safe out there, and make sure you guys are prepared. There's a lot going on here in the world. Best thing to do in any scenario is be prepared and hope for the best. We'll catch you guys tomorrow sometime. Have a good night.